It was just another cold afternoon when a weary single dad pushed open the glass doors of a luxury store. His jacket was torn at the sleeve, his shoes worn from too many long walks to work. Clutching his daughter's tiny hand, he whispered, "We'll just look for something small. It's your birthday after all." The store gleamed with bright chandeliers and polished marble floors, a world far from the life he knew. Customers browsed casually, draped in expensive coats and carrying designer bags. But as soon as the father stepped inside, the room shifted. Two saleswomen by the counter exchanged glances. One smirked, the other let out a quiet laugh. Their eyes trailed down his faded jeans, the way his little girl's shoes had holes at the toes. "Sir, maybe you're lost," one of them called out loudly, enough for the other shoppers to hear. A few chuckles followed from the back. The father's face flushed with embarrassment. He held his daughter's hand tighter, pretending not to notice. But the whispers grew louder. "People like him don't belong here. Security should check him before he steals something." The little girl tugged at his sleeve, confused and scared. She didn't understand why everyone looked at her daddy that way. Still, he stood tall, refusing to leave. He wanted to prove that even a poor man had the right to dream. But no one in that store knew. The humiliation they were so quick to give would soon turn into a lesson they'd never forget. The little girl's eyes darted around the store wide with confusion. She clung to her father's arm, her small fingers trembling. "Daddy, why are they laughing at us?" she whispered, her voice so soft it nearly broke him. He knelt down, brushing the tangled hair from her face. With a forced smile, he whispered, "Don't worry, sweetheart. Sometimes people don't understand. Sometimes people don't understand us, but that doesn't mean we don't belong." But his words were cut short by another cruel voice. "Sir, if you can't afford to shop here, please leave. You're making the other customers uncomfortable." The saleswoman snapped, her lips curling in disdain. The father swallowed hard, hiding the sting in his chest. He stood again, squeezing his daughter's hand. "We'll just be quick," he said firmly, though his voice wavered. The girl tugged at him, her eyes glassy. "It's okay, Daddy. We don't have to stay. I don't want them to be mad at you." Her innocence pierced deeper than any insult. She didn't ask for diamonds or designer shoes. All she wanted was for her dad not to hurt. But the mockery didn't stop. One clerk even leaned toward another and muttered, "Should we call security before this gets embarrassing?" The father's chest tightened. Every second felt heavier, every whisper sharper than a blade. He wanted to turn and run, but he refused because this was his daughter's birthday and she deserved at least one moment where dreams didn't feel out of reach. And just when the humiliation seemed unbearable, a new voice cut through the tension. The air inside the store grew heavy with judgment. Customers stared. Employees whispered. The little girl buried her face in her father's coat, wishing she could disappear. And then a deep, steady voice echoed from the back of the showroom. "What's going on here? What's going on here?" The chatter froze. The employees straightened instantly. All eyes turned toward a tall man in an immaculate suit, walking briskly across the marble floor. His presence commanded silence. The store owner himself. One of the saleswomen rushed to his side, pointing accusingly at the father. "Sir, this man doesn't belong here. He's disturbing our customers." The owner's gaze shifted, settling on the father. For a long moment his expression was unreadable. He looked past the ragged jacket, past the tired eyes as if searching deeper, and then his brow furrowed. His steps slowed, his eyes widened ever so slightly. He whispered to himself almost in disbelief, "It can't be him." The employees glanced at each other, confused. The father stood frozen, clutching his daughter's hand, unsure whether things were about to get worse. But the owner's memory raced backward. Years ago, before the polished floors, before the wealth, he had been a nobody. And on one stormy night, stranded and penniless, it was this very man who had reached out a helping hand. Now standing in his glittering store, the owner realized the poor man before him was no stranger at all. and the staff had just mocked the very person who once saved him. The room was silent. The staff waited for the owner's verdict, expecting him to escort the poor man out. Instead, the owner's voice thundered, sharp and commanding. Enough. The saleswoman froze mid-sentence. Shoppers turned their heads. No one dared move. The owner stepped forward, his eyes locked on the single dad. Then, to everyone's shock, he reached out his hand, not to throw him out, but to clasp his shoulder firmly. "Do you know who this man is?" the owner said, his voice echoing through the marble halls. "Years ago, when I had nothing, when I was hungry, broke, and stranded. He was the one who helped me. He gave me food. He gave me hope. He gave me a chance to stand again." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The sales staff, who had sneered only moments ago, now stood pale with shame. The father's eyes widened. He hadn't expected to be remembered, let alone honored. His daughter peeked out from behind his coat, confused but comforted by the sudden change in tone. The owner placed his arm around the man and turned to the staff. "This man is worth more than any gold or diamonds in this store, and you dared to mock him." The employees lowered their heads, their arrogance shattered. The daughter's lips curled into the faintest smile as if for the first time she truly believed her father's words. That kindness always finds its way back. The father's throat tightened. He wasn't used to being defended, especially not in a place like this. With trembling words, he said softly, "I didn't come here to cause trouble. I just wanted to find something small, a little gift for my daughter's birthday." His daughter looked up at him, her big eyes filled with both hope and fear. She whispered, "Daddy, we don't need anything. I just want you." The owner crouched to her level, his expression softening. "Sweetheart, today is your special day, and your father is a hero in my eyes. You deserve more than whispers and shame. You deserve joy." He stood and turned to the staff, his tone firm. "Let her choose anything she wants. No charge." The employees gasped. Customers murmured. The daughter blinked in disbelief. "Anything?" she asked shyly. The owner smiled. "Anything." She didn't run to the diamond cases or the shelves glittering with gold. Instead, she walked to a small display and picked up a simple silver locket. She held it close to her chest and whispered, "This is enough." The store fell silent. The girl's innocence cut deeper than any luxury. It wasn't about the price. It was about being seen, about being treated with dignity. Tears welled in the father's eyes. He bowed his head, his voice cracking. "Thank you for remembering me, for seeing us," and for the first time in years, he felt like a man again, not judged, not pied, but respected. The little girl clutched the locket as if it were a treasure worth more than all the diamonds in the store. She smiled up at her father, her eyes glowing with pride. For once she didn't see the tired man in worn-out shoes. She saw her hero. The father and daughter walked out of the luxury store, not in shame, but in dignity. Heads turned as they passed, the same people who had mocked them now watching in silence, their faces flushed with guilt. Behind them, the staff stood frozen, their lesson carved deep, that appearances can lie, and judgment can wound far more than poverty ever could. The owner placed a hand on the father's shoulder one last time. "You saved me when I was at my lowest. Today was just my chance to return the favor. Never forget, you and your daughter deserve every bit of happiness this world can give." The father could barely speak through the lump in his throat. He simply nodded, holding back tears as his daughter whispered, "Thank you, sir." And in that moment, the truth was undeniable. One act of kindness, even years ago, can ripple through time and come back when it's needed most. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to reflect. Have you ever judged someone too quickly? Or have you ever received kindness when you least expected it? Share your story in the comments below. And remember, compassion costs nothing, but it can change everything.